Well, good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of the Chimney Fireplace Success Network. And we want to welcome you here today. Just like every week, we have a great guest for you today. So Cheryl, what would you say about our guest today?
Josh is one of the people that he's a go-to person for me if I need technical stuff, if I need something written. He's been in the business. I think he was basically, we'll call it, born into the business. And he has some ideas of working with things that are kind of out of the box. And so I think he can add great value to people.
Yeah. So our guest today is a gentleman by the name of Josh Kelley that I've known for a few years. And Josh has developed, the best I can tell you, some phenomenal systems. In fact, last week our guest was Al Levy. And Josh has actually shared what he's done with Al. And Al said, this is unlike anything I have ever seen in multi-million-dollar companies of what you produced here, Josh. So it's a phenomenal system, and this is going to be a great educational episode for you if you are a manager and you want to take those handcuffs off. So stick around with us. We'll be right back, and we'll have Josh here in the studio. And here's my friend, Joshua Kelley, who we call Josh for short, okay? So, Josh, how you doing today, brother? You ready to share some wisdom with our listeners?
I'm doing great. Yes, I'm ready to share.
There you go. So let's start off with this, Josh. How did you end up in this business? Let's give everybody a little bit of background of Josh and how Josh ended up there at Magic Broom in Tri-County in Waldorf, Maryland.
Oh, it's just nepotism, is plain and simple. My parents started the business, and after college, I worked a few other jobs before they pulled me into it.
Okay, so they worked a couple of jobs. So how long have you actively worked there at Tri-County and Magic Broom?
15 years.
15 years. And what would you say your job is today? What would be, if I said Josh and I was filling out your IRS form or whatever, what would I say Josh's occupation is today at those businesses?
General manager.
Okay. So we've got a great showroom up there, went through a fantastic remodel this past year up there at Waldorf. Like I said, they've got an amazing facility, really nice showroom. Josh, what would you say? What you got in showroom? About 7,000 square feet in that showroom. Does that sound about right?
It's pretty close, 7,000-8,000.
And how many burning fireplace displays do you have?
Right, 50.
50. And then wood stoves, pellet stoves, all of this, gas appliances. You pretty well have a wide range as a leading retailer of hearth appliances, in my opinion. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, we have every category covered well.
That's it. So in fact, Josh last year took a fact-finding trip around the Northeast, went and visited showrooms and got ideas from people that are in the business, seeing what was in their showrooms, and cut a path through the Northeastern United States, and he's well remembered for that path that he went through on that trip. And he's grinning right now because he knows what I'm talking about. So anyway, Josh, a couple years ago, started designing something that at the time he started, it was like, this is going to be a heck of a project. But he's carried forth with this. And what he has designed here is an informational page, a knowledge base page. So I'm going to ask him, Josh, tell us a little bit, why did you spend this work to develop this knowledge base for your company?
So, especially for new hires, people to do their job, it's constantly, they never know where to find the information, or they're relying on me over and over and over and over and over to tell them the same thing over and over and over and over again. How do you do this procedure? How do you find that information? How do you find this part? Because every vendor, we've been around for 40 years, so every vendor has their own process for doing things. And that's from their how to find parts, how to order, how to go through their price books are all different. So it allowed me to standardize these problems that we're having.
That's it. So stick around with us because Josh is actually, we're going to bring this site up on the screen shortly so Josh can actually show you what he has developed. So Cheryl, let me ask you this, knowing what you do about this, what questions would you have to ask Josh for our listeners to hear?
The questions I think that will come up is, number one, how long did it take? That's going to be a normal thing. Is there any help that someone can get if they wanted to go in this direction? And a lot of them, I think, are just going to want to know more about the knowledge of the crafting of it.
That's it. So one of the things is, Josh, let's tell them what your actual name was that you came up with this, which was, this was What Would Josh Do? And what
Yep.
Josh has assembled here is, and I want you to think about this. Think about the number of minutes, the number of hours in an average day that you spend answering questions over and over and over again. And Josh, how does that affect you personally when people keep coming to your door and ask that same question 25 times?
So after the second time, my blood pressure starts to go up. And the more you keep asking the question, the higher it's going to get until I explode.
Okay.
The second part of that is I have ADD. So with that being said, if you interrupt my thought process, it's going to take me a while to get back on the tracks there. And then at some point, I like, okay, my day's done because there's no way I'm getting back on track. Like it's, in order for get me to get back on the rails, it doesn't take anything but a penny on the track sometimes to be the shiny, silver squirrel on the tree branch.
Okay. So I'm going to turn screen sharing on in just a minute so you can share with what you've done. But what we're getting ready to look at, Josh, how many hours would you say you would estimate you have devoted to this project since you started it?
Well, this is what you're going to see is literally a culmination of, I hate to say this, but it's 15 years. And I haven't, I can't take all the ideas for myself, but I started with, we always had a handbook, and whatever the most updated handbook always lived in some office manager drawers that no one else had access to, that she always seemed to have squirreled away because she had to have the most up-to-date one for whatever power thing that would do. So I never liked that because it was like no one ever knows what version we're working off of. So you start building file folders out, and then file folders start to multiply like little gremlins, and you just put little bits in, little bits, and then all of a sudden you have, your handbooks, your training guides all start to just little bits just get in there and build out into this, massive thing.
Okay. So Josh, I'm going to bring your screen up onto the stream here. So at this point, I'm going to let you kind of describe to people, what do you have here? What is this? Okay. So the floor is yours. Please demonstrate this. And if you have questions, send them in through the comment bar, please.
Okay. So what you're seeing is basically how I run both divisions of our company, the service business and the retail store. I commonly refer to this as a wiki site. I still use What Would Josh Do because I think it's funny. This is an encrypted site. You guys can look at the link all you want that's at the top. Unless I give you access to it, you're not going to get the load screen won't even come up. So that's the very first part of this. Needs to be encrypted. I did this particular one in Google Sites because if you get to know me, you'll know that I'm pretty much I'm a Googler. I do everything inside of Google. This is not the only platform to do this in. I like this one because it is a very visual platform and allows me to put different types of media in here on one page. Also, most people already understand day one how to navigate a website in this day and age. So that's the other reason I like this. There's other ones I think called Sweetscapes and Tranuals, which will allow you to effectively do the same thing. Google Sites is basically free, which doesn't really affect my decision making in this. I'm obviously way too involved inside of Google to change. But the first thing is for everyone, day one, you're going to spend 8 hours just learning how to navigate this website, because I have every bit of information that I could possibly have. I think I have uploaded in here. Every once in a while, I haven't seen it, but lately, but sometimes I do get stumped. But this is where this is the landing page for everything that we do here. So just to walk you down the left, oops, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong screen. I have shortcut links, which this is just a place to put all the websites that your staff needs to be. Because so much of that is getting someone oriented. You're getting website links, you're getting logins. They're having to write all this information down. It gets lost. You get asked again. Things like that. I keep clicking on the wrong page. Go back home. So that's just like the shortcut links. I have everything on here from. I'll go over the homepage. I have training and attendance calendars on here. I have our company share folder right here, front and center, because again, that's eliminates the where do I find this? So much of this is where do I find this? Where do I find that? I put it all right here on the home page, everything from how to start a Google document, a Google Sheet, all right here. So my Google Drive's right here. I have nothing but vendor emails coming up. And if you guys, especially in this day and age, you guys have all seen that emails are coming out rapidly about price increases, product updates. It's all coming. So this gives me one place where the entire team can read those emails. And then these pages right here are visual representations of these links here. So I have everything from company handbook. This is anything you're going to find from driving policy, drug testing policy, theft policy, sexual harassment policy. This is where you're going to find that. I have, just to show you, troubleshooting guides. I have all sorts of things on here, from vocabulary, PowerPoint presentations I've written. Hell, I made a video here in the showroom that I intentionally smoked out the showroom just so I could show someone what happens when you don't preheat a flue. So many of us have been doing this a long time. That's a common thing. The fire department gets called. Fire department accuses you of screwing something up. We all know that's not the case. But here's a video. Hell, I even take other people's videos and put them on here. Here's someone we all know, Steve Sobczak. I put his video up here. There's no shame in my game. There's no need for that. If he's got a great video on how to operate damper, I put manufacturers' videos on here. This is a video I had made too. You can use this as a training tool and as a resource for customers. I even make interactive troubleshooting guides. You can make those where the text, just click on a blue box, it pops up the answers. You can put manufacturers. Again, here's another video I made. This is a public YouTube video. You type in Meridian tutorial, you'll see some excellent hand modeling there. I do take contract work on my hand modeling. So even for like the showroom, if someone's moves around a lot, or you have people at doing in-home sales, I went through and just took a picture of every showroom model in the showroom. I put things like, who it's made by, what fireplace they put in, what color, where I sourced the materials, I did that for not just people in the field, but in the store. If you're in a large store like mine, hopefully you can just keep the customer engaged at your computer instead of running back and forth where they've already seen it. It's just a way for me to document everything, because so much of that, where did you get that stone again? Where did you get that again? Where did you get that wall again? Like, just so much of that. So I put everything in there that I can think of: colors, banding, just the thickness, everything in there, that so I won't have to get asked about it later. I did that for all, my showroom doors. Again, these are separate policies for the showroom. We have, this document is, I've consolidated, about 200 stove manuals into one Excel spreadsheet. That way, how much of your day as a salesperson is reading manuals? Is this appliance going to fit? Is this appliance going to fit? This appliance going to fit? I can usually tell you within 10 seconds if an appliance is going to fit, just because we've taken all that work and moved it. I've got training videos. If you're, like, say you're a heat shield dealer, I've got checklists and training videos, refreshers on everything before the guys go out the door. If you're not doing a lot of volume, so they can refresh their memory, get their process together, and not try and figure it out at the house again. I've got, how all the warranties are filled, everything you want to know about every permit jurisdiction we work in, which is 10. If I made a video, this is where it exists. Frequently asked questions. These are stuff. We all get this call, every fireplace and chimney shop in the country, but here's how I handle birds in a chimney calls. Here's what I tell the customers. Here's my stove gasket ply place. What I can do with this is very limitless. I can record going over certain parts of this. I post, actually, where's my order process? Like this document, this is my whole circle of life for a sales order. It is, every one of these documents is backstopped with another document, each one of these things in blue. And the whole thing is also, I can awesome pull up a whole video of the whole process. That way I'm not having to reteach it over and over and over again. The process takes a while to go over, but everyone can see their role in the process. That way there's no questions about where is this order at, things of that nature. And like I said, and I went through and we had a company meeting, I recorded the whole thing, and then everyone can then review that video, or especially new hires can review that video. Trying to think. Here's my phone number of everybody that works here. And our social media feeds are on here as well. That way someone doesn't have to, a lot of people don't have social media still these days, but you can see our feeds right here for anybody that's our employee, that they can just go see what's being posted. That way there's no communication breakdowns. Oh, there's a sale and I didn't know. I was like, well, you could have looked, if you're checking this. So there's just a lot, like I said, you can really do with this visually. And then it's backstopped with code books and literature and all the forms I've ever created, before and after pictures. I think, do I have? You can do photo carousels for not just your employees, but customers, where you can show them before and afters of jobs you did. And again, just, before and after is just great on how, this is the kind of work that we do here. And of course I need to build this out more, but just just things like that that are good for training. They're good for customers, things of that nature.
Got you covered, man. Let me ask you a question. How useful is this when you hire someone new? You know, a couple weeks ago, I was actually at your office and you were onboarding 2 new employees that day, and you were using this wiki site as that onboarding process of showing them something. How helpful is this in bringing a new hire up to speed?
It's immense because I can actually walk away from them, and it allows them to, as long as they know how to navigate this, allow them to find a lot of their answers.
Yeah. So Cheryl, as you look at this, what questions come to mind for Josh from you? Because you've seen this before, but what's your thoughts on this as a business owner of what he has developed there for in-house use?
I think it's great. I mean, anyone in his company that is not using it is missing a huge benefit. And knowing Josh, I'm sure everybody there uses it. But it saves so much time. I never, we never contact Josh that he's got an employee in front of him having to discuss anything with him anymore. And I think it's super. And for what I like in it the most of all, because I do a lot of the hiring, is that he can put a new hire in front of this and save himself many, many hours about the onboard system.
Right. So Josh, let's do it this way. You've got 2 new people in your showroom that started within the last 3 weeks. I would say,
30,
if my memory
30
correct.
days, but yeah.
30 days. Okay. So how competent are they at this point of waiting on a customer and selling them a fireplace?
Well, Chris on this week was able to price out an entire gas insert complete with no mistakes. He was able to run through our checklists, and he looked at our display. All the SKUs are listed there for, he was basically selling this model right here. I have all the SKUs listed right there in the office or on this side of it. So he's able to, type in the SKUs. He's able to pull up current price lists, which, those are changing weekly, update the prices, put in the SKUs, and get within, a few dollars of the correct price.
Okay. So you see this as it does expedite. So he was able to compute the vending requirements and everything from using this?
Yes. And this was a gas insert. So that's just a kit instead of, build it out.
Okay. So how long does it usually take someone, if they come to work for you, to learn to spec out, we would say, a freestanding stove running a Class A system through the roof? How long before they could be competent in doing that?
That's a 60, 90-day thing. That's getting into Class A runs is a little bit more advanced. So,
Yeah.
and we're doing some more training on that.
Right. And even this morning, you sent me a draft of another one. Would you tell them what you're working on right now?
So it's, especially for new hires, it's the thought process and how to build your vending quotes out. Just what data you need to collect. And here's where then you get it all together, and there's a form you fill out after you collect all your data. And then that form gives you plus and minuses and things like that. So it's trying to get my brain on the paper. Like when I look at a wall thimble 6 feet off the ground and the stove's 3 foot high, I can instantly go, okay, I need a 24, a slip, a 90, and an 18 to get in there, and maybe a trim plate to go over it. For me, that's second nature. Because of course I've been doing it for 15 years. I don't have to look. I don't have to look at parts lists. I know all the part numbers by heart, but they don't know that what is everything that just went on in my head that I've got in a 6-page document right now. I just did that whole computation in 2 seconds, but I literally ran through it. It's like, I already know the stove collar size. I know the thimble size. I know how hot the thimble was off the ground. I knew what stove it was. I knew how far the stove was going to be off the ground, off the back wall. I knew what pipe I was going to use. I knew the part number. So that takes that's years of knowledge right there. that I'm able to do in, 10 seconds and spit off part numbers. That's a year, 2 year thing for a salesperson, but at least I can get the thought process of here's how you go about it. And it may take you, obviously it's not going to take you 10 seconds, but it'll take you, 30 minutes to do it, but at least you can do it. If someone else is, that's not more experienced isn't available to help you, it gives you the tools to do that.
Gotcha. So Cheryl, what about you? Have you got any questions for Josh on this wiki site before we move on to another thing that he's developed?
Just one question I'm sure some of our viewers might ask. Are your employees actively using it most all the time, or do you have people that just still come walk up to your desk and ask?
Most part, they have all the answers for the most part. They still do it. And then my response is go look it up, especially if I know what's in there. Because I don't want to be that crutch for them.
Okay. So what if someone were to walk up and ask you a question and it's not in these pages, because you pretty well know in your head what all is in this site because your memory is pretty astronomical. So what's your process whenever somebody comes up and asks that question and it's not covered in the site? What do you do then?
We document it, write it up, and post it up there.
Okay.
Because it will happen again.
Right. So how often is this something that you usually work in daily, a couple times a week? How much time do you invest into this where at the stage you have it built now?
So it varies. It can be a month before I touch it. Or right now I'm writing a whole bunch of training materials. And so I'm in there every day, multiple times a day. So as I'm working on visual aids, I'm pulling pictures, I'm constantly editing it. The thing I really like about Google Sites is it is incredibly easy to edit and publish. You don't have to be a computer programmer. You don't have to know code. You just go in there. It's almost like copying and pasting. You stick your documents in there and you just go, you just go about business. You just knock it out. So right now, like I said, I'm working on some training materials because I'm able to, what do I want to say, even sharpen my skills on how to be a better trainer because I'm watching the new hires. Like, okay, I can give them this visual aid. I can give them this visual aid, and make this process better for them.
Got you covered. So let me ask you this. Can someone in accessing the system wreck it? Can they make changes unauthorized to these documents that are in there, like on a Google document? Or is it pretty well, unless you allow changes to be made, is it pretty well locked into what you put down?
Yeah, it's only management level has access to change things. Also with this level, I see everyone's activity on here, and I can see when you go into Drive and access documents. So if someone were to go through and delete documents or something like that, I have an audit log that goes back to the years that would show me if someone went through and did something like that.
Got you covered. So anyway, you've invested a lot of time. If somebody were looking at this, Josh, when we show this to people, often it overwhelms them. And, they say, I'd love to have it. But how do they get past that fear? How do they conquer this and put this knowledge base to work for them?
Well, for me, I started with my CSR dispatchers. It was kind of where I had I was working with them hand in hand at the time when I started this several years ago. B, I already had a lot of FAQs and some documents written. So I just started with one department, and that's all it was originally intended to be. Because I remember someone, or you told me about another company that wrote HTML code for their hierarchy tree. If the customer says this and then it takes them to another web page and things like that. And that's where I really wanted to start, was with that decision-making tree. And then of course that turned into this whole huge decision-making tree hierarchy. I was able to put call scripts in front of them. Again, you can see the order process, what's included, their specific policies. So I really started with just, that one department, and built out their knowledge. And then Steve Sobsack gave me this document one time, and it was how he deals with pretty much one brand of fireplaces. And it was like a 12, 14 page document just on how to deal with one vendor. I'm like, man, I wish I could only deal with one vendor. If you look at my vendor files, there's hundreds of vendors there. And each one of them, again, interacts slightly different. Here's the phone tree for each vendor. Here's everyone's email addresses. Here's how you put their orders in. Here's the website logins. All that stuff that just keeps coming up and up and up and up and up. I did that over and over and over and over and over and over because of Steve. I blame him.
Okay.
And so, like I said, that was just part of, hey, where do I find that part? Because that comes up. Why do I have to be the person that researches all the parts? Well, I don't have to be.
Yep, got you covered. So Cheryl, anything else that you would ask Josh on this wiki site? Because I'm going to go to another project that he's done that I think is also extremely interesting. Whoops, let me cut you back. There you go.
I got it. At this point in time, the main thing is I can see where it would be overwhelming to people, but I can also see the hours and days that it could save. So I'm kind of with Josh here. The main thing, the suggestion I would be to give to people is start.
Yeah. And that's what I look at. You just got to start. So Josh, is this something that someone could buy from you and implement into their operation, or is this something they got to build?
It's both. Even if you take what I have written, you're going to have to tailor it to your company, because you may not like the way I run things, and you're going to have to be able to tailor it to your company. Now, with that being said, you're almost buying my franchise model. I mean, that's how I've got it set up. Keep in mind, this is more than just a website. This is a mobile database. So any internet connected device can access this that I have given permission to that user. So it doesn't matter if they're on the showroom floor, in the truck, or at home, they're in a customer's house, they can pull this information up. So it comes, especially being on the Google site, it's already optimized for a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, or even your mobile device.
Right. So your guys, if they're in a customer's home and they say, hey, I saw that fireplace when I was in the showroom, they can pull that fireplace up. They know the stone, they know the type of logs that was in it. They know the refractory, they know the lighting system. They know all this anywhere they're in the field.
Exactly.
So this is very compatible from both the service aspect and also from the showroom aspect, which you have both sides of this. You've got very good operations on both sides. So it's a great process there, but you also did something else a couple of years ago. And this is where you designed and built in-house brochures. I'm not sure, do you have 12 in-house brochures at this point that were custom written? How many do we have?
I think about 12.
Have about 12. Okay, so on these brochures, let's start with the first question. Why did Josh spend the money? Because you spend a lot of money because of what you do to build these. What was your goal in building these custom brochures for your company?
First was eliminate a pain point. Number one. So much of my day, and again, I hate repeating myself. Even if it's to a new customer, I hate repeating myself, and I hate arguing with them over what the cost of doing business is, because they don't know what my overhead is. They're not figuring in gas prices or insurance or any of that into cost. So I got tired of having to have that conversation. And if that customer is having that conversation with you, you've already lost. You've already lost that customer. The chance that they're going to buy from you is extremely low. I don't think I've ever converted that guy who wants to start arguing over the cost of getting this done. So those are my two things. And the other one was, as a technician, again, I don't like repeating myself, but I'm always trying to get to that light bulb moment. If you get to know me, I'm very process driven. I'm not into repeating myself. I'm gonna say that again for the millionth time, but I'm always trying to get the job done as efficiently as I can. So for me, I incorporated custom graphics so I can show side-by-side examples of here's your chimney, here's what your chimney should look like, and here's damage, and it's in a written format. And written is very, very important when I say that, written in format, because they will argue to your face, but they will not argue to that piece of paper. So keep that in mind. You can talk a lot of people down off a ledge even if your SOP is written in a format where sometimes you can just slide it to the customer and go, here's the policy. We're not deviating from this. It's written. It's not me speaking about it. So when you're talking about the need to get water repellent or chimney liner or tuck pointing or what your smoke chamber is supposed to look like, and no one's ever, how many of your customers ever stuck their head up a flue? They haven't. So it gives me that side-by-side comparison in high detail resolution graphics, and again, so I can explain it to them.
Gotcha. So Cheryl, you've seen his brochures and you've worked the retail showroom floor. You've dealt with customers on the retail end and everything else. What's your opinion of this brochure collection that Josh has assembled?
I like the way he's got it assembled. It's different from the manufacturer's brochures because that's just about their product. It's not about the generic across the board thing. And like you said, the installation's different for different things. And most people, as we all know, the customer doesn't understand. But as he said, if it's in writing, it seems to adhere to the customer more than just the vocal, because they assume you're blowing it out of the water or you're lying to them or you're just trying to smooth it over. But when it's been written prior to them coming into the showroom, it definitely takes a whole different turn.
Okay. So Josh, whenever you do your brochures, do you insert manufacturers' brand names or do you keep that out of it?
Never. Especially, let's just say, like right now, we're in a inventory or supply shortage. Everyone's experiencing this. If I need to, I can switch a chimney liner without saying a word to the homeowner, as long as I met the same criteria that, of the same alloy. If I know if this manufacturer's out 3 weeks and this guy's out 1 week, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to take the one that's readily available, or if I can go, and go pick up the same day. So it gives me that flexibility across my business of not having to explain it. When you hand out a manufacturer's brochure, I don't, except for a few fireplace manufacturers, all these products are sold online. So they do the first thing, and I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm a business owner. I'm going to go in there and say, well, what can I buy it for online? That's the very first thing I'm going to do, just to kind of see what the prices are really like. And when I do that, it immediately, like I said, changes my mentality if I'm going to buy or not. Me personally, I have a close circle of trades friends, and I tell them to just go ahead and do it. Like, I know I'd just much rather be like, look, you're the professional. just go do it. Just give me the price at the end. I don't need to know which ones you're doing it, because these are people I trust. Part of that's building that trust with that customer. But when you hand over a manufacturer and someone's selling it online for the same price you're buying it at, and then the customer goes, well, I'll just buy it online. Well, that becomes a real issue. Again, that customer's not going to buy it from you. Will they actually ever put the product in their house or on their chimney? Probably not. It puts a bad taste in their mouth. My response is, when they want to know what we're putting in, I just tell them it's a private labeled product.
So whenever you're doing these brochures, you're doing all this brochure work yourself, or do you have a designer, and do you use company graphics, or do you do not graphics, but photos, that type of stuff? How do you put together a brochure such as that?
So step one is usually assembly of real world photos from our database of photos, which you've been doing this long enough. In this day and age, you've got a million photos to choose from. So that's step one. Step two is, step one should really is, what's the point of what I'm trying to get across? Then step two is the photos to prove your point. Then I know what size brochures I want very big, bright colored brochures, because hell, I'm hitting 40 now, and I'm starting to do the get it to the same let me get it to where I can read it. Yeah, I don't have glasses, but I do find myself, if I'm in a dim lit restaurant, I'm starting to do the old menu thing. And then of course my customers are even older than me usually, and then they're getting readers and they're not, it's like, well, what's the point of that? So no, I want big pictures. I want big fonts. So with that said, and I want as few as words as possible. As few as words as possible. But I'm doing a few things. Like, I had to go through, like, there is not a legal definition of parging out there. You can go search all the Webster dictionaries you want. I actually wrote through and made a quote unquote legal definition of parging. For our purposes, we use it commonly in the chimney and fireplace world, but if you look up, if you were just to do dictionary.com, it doesn't actually come up. At least it didn't last time I looked. So after you get your photos, then you always write it for your target audience, and this is the difference between manufacturers' brochures and our brochures. Manufacturers are usually trying to sell us the product, and especially in the chimney and vending industry, and I'm always trying to get it to the homeowner. So I'm using language that the homeowner will understand. So with that, I will go through. I have some simple layout programs here. I don't get into the actual graphics work of it. And at that point, I then turn it over to a graphics guy who then lays it out professionally. We go through a few edit changes. He makes it look pretty, colors, fonts, stylization, things I can't even think about, and gets it to where it looks professional and not like what I laid out in my basement.
Gotcha. So you involve someone else using a virtual person, because I don't believe they're located there in Waldorf, and you communicate with them. Where is your graphic artist located at, Josh?
Barcelona.
Okay, so he's coming out of Spain. And one of the things you said was, because of the time zone changes, you're an early morning guy. So this allows you to communicate with him early morning. Did I remember hearing that correctly?
That is correct, because if artsy people are usually different than us. And they work different hours. They're night owls usually. And that doesn't work for me. So, especially so that gives you when someone's getting up, when you're usually getting off of work, it means your window to communicate is very, very narrow to do that. And that means they're sending emails late at night, things like that. This allows, with him being up early, 6 hours ahead, I think, it allows us to actually communicate in real time.
Gotcha. And on the brochure series you published, I believe you have sold these designs to some other dealers upon request, where you will actually transition it to the colors of their company, their logos, their information, contact information, using what you've done. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So a lot of people that have seen these, they kind of fall in love with them, but it's a lot of work. I mean, it takes you quite a while. If you go into a design, a production design for a new brochure that you're developing, how long will it usually take you to have that ready to go to print?
Physically, I've got the whole process takes about 90 days. I'll tell you that for one brochure. From start to finish, between edits and things like that. On top of that, then you've got, I mean, there's little, 15 minutes here, 30 minutes here, hours of data collection, hours of writing. Then, especially if you're me, you have ADD, you get interrupted. So the graphic artist only works on it about 4 to 6 hours, maybe, because he's got a different focus, and he can just work on it. For me, it ends up being like 40 hours or something like that, or more, for me to get all the photos, do all the writing, do the general layout, get it to a point. Because as me and you had discussed in the past, you have to be able to communicate to artists differently than you do tech people. And like for me, as you know, I'm very technically savvy. I speak usually very directly. An artist is going to communicate differently, as the computer programmers are going to tell differently to me. But I'm able to usually bridge that gap. But I have to get everything written in a format that the graphic artist can take it and run with it. And that's its own set of skills right there. It's just getting it written so that they can take it and run with it.
Right. And you're also using, so we're using editors, we're using graphic artists for this. So you are a person that takes what you know and then delegates that out. And I think that's one of your secrets there, is that you're not scared to delegate work out to other people, and you don't get bogged down in, shall we say, the busy work. Would that be a true statement?
Yeah, I will fail at busy work every single time. It just will not. I just know that about myself. It's very miserable experience for me.
Yeah. So
And
Cheryl, go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say that has more to do with my ADD than anything.
Gotcha.
That's going to be true for just about anyone with ADD.
Right. So here's to summarize Josh. Josh has great ideas. Josh doesn't have a lot of patience for answering questions. Josh doesn't want to go through pain. So what Josh is willing to do is do the work to avoid the pain. Would that be a pretty good assessment of Josh Kelley?
Yes, it would.
Okay. So Cheryl, what would be your final question to Josh before we end this interview today?
My final one would be, Josh, as you know, all of us own businesses, and we're so knowledgeable in the business that we own. Did you find when you were writing these brochures that it was harder for you to get down to the customer level and the verbiage that they needed to hear, since you had all the knowledge? And I don't like the word dumb it down, but that's kind of what you're doing, taking it to a level that the customer would understand and the words would mean more to them. Or did you have somebody preview it that did not have knowledge?
I did all that. And when you look at my brochures, know that these are not version 1 perfect products. Some of these are on version 6 or 7 of being written, new graphics, new ideas. Because when I was really writing them, I still go in the field and would field test them myself, so I can see. And just like I was doing training this morning with my staff with the new training materials I had, like I'm watching them, how they're interacting with the materials, and how did this graphic achieve what I was looking for it to do. The same thing with my training materials. Did that training material that I gave them this morning did it achieve? And I can tell you this morning that the training materials that I spent the last few days did not achieve the goal that I wanted. But what it did do for me was spark the next level of idea this morning to where I can actually write this into a class format and to where I can better train them.
Okay. So you're a person, Josh, that I would classify as an industry expert, a subject matter expert. In fact, so everybody knows if you're watching, this is a cover, this is a sample cover of a new book that we're rolling out as soon as Amazon gets it up online, because it was submitted a couple of days ago, called the CVC Success Journal. And Josh is one of the people who has written this along with about 14 other contributors to this particular thing. So Josh, let me ask this question. As a person who is very astute, who is technically very sharp, how hard is it for you to speak and write in a term that the consumer can understand? How were you able to develop that skill that you're not talking above the consumer in these brochures? Does that come from the editing process, or is it something you've learned?
Both. Like I said, the edit, because yeah, I definitely want to write very technical. Matter of fact, I wrote a white paper on why you need to use an Aaron's fire, or even now a prior fire firebox for some restorations, and it's a 6-page document on math and things like that. Like, I get into that. That's exciting. Homeowner doesn't care about that stuff, but that's why I like graphics, and that's why I'm into making videos now, because I can. I've literally just, and it's so painful as a technician to do this. You got your tablet there, you hit play on the video, and you just shut up for 5 minutes. And it is really hard, but you're going to get your point across in that 60-second to 5-minute video a lot faster than you are talking. Because you're going to have visual, like, just say I'm selling caps. I have a video of nothing, like it's a part animation, part real video, but literally it just rains on a full coverage cap, and I zoom in and you can see where the cap, it's dry underneath. Like, it's not me, the homeowner can see it. It's pouring. I'm actually standing in the warehouse with a camcorder recording it, but you can actually see it's just pouring. And the homeowner's like, no, your chimney will stay dry in a pouring down rain with this type of cap. So again, I sit there and I watch the visual cues from the customer, if they're getting it. If I'm having to make drawings while I'm in the house trying to explain something, then that then becomes a graphic that the graphic artist will make.
Right. So you're proof of a picture's worth 1,000 words, and you're communicating a lot of this through videos, through even animation is part of what you've done. You've developed some animation using animators, other things. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So, but Josh, this makes me think back some years ago when you were implementing a new software system, and it was not an easy implementation. And the name of that software was Service Titan. And you were one of the first users in the chimney and venting industry to implement Service Titan. And amazingly, for some reason, you were the only one that wasn't pulling their hair out. Do you remember those days?
Oh, yeah.
So one day, and I can remember I was walking around in my yard, and Josh and I were talking, and I said, Josh, I got to understand something. Why are you the only person that doesn't have an issue with this? Do you remember the answer you gave me, Josh?
Well, I said I speak geek.
Correct. He said, I speak geek. But what you've also been able to do, Josh, you have developed an ability to not only speak geek, but to speak technical at the highest level, but to also speak in simple terms that a consumer can understand. Cheryl, when I talk about that ability that Josh has from your background of a disc assessor, how amazing is that to you?
Extremely amazing. I mean, Josh, I know Josh's disc profile, so I understand where it's coming from, but not along with this disc profile. It takes that, what he said, the speaking geek. It takes a willingness to want to do it. It takes a drive to do it. And part of it's just the fact he didn't want to do certain things like answer questions. A lot of people kind of like doing it, but it says so much about Josh, and he fits his disc profile exactly.
Yeah, you fit my point of view, Josh, which is, I came to a conclusion a couple years ago. Change is difficult, but it's up to each of us to decide if we want to continue in the pain we're in or go through the pain of change. And you are a person that has made tremendous strides, worked your butt off in order to alleviate that pain of someone knocking on your door and saying, "Hey, Josh, how do you do this?" Or a customer, the pain of that customer trying to get you to justify your cost. It's
Mhm.
amazing. So, brother, I appreciate your time today. I think you've shared some fantastic information. If you listened to us, hey, feel free to share this broadcast out to your friends, to your business colleagues, because the two things that Josh has demonstrated today are truly tools that can take you to the next level. And with that, we're going to end this episode of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. We really appreciate Josh being our guest today. We didn't mention Brandy today. Brandy's out in the field today. She's actually on site with some clients. So that's why she couldn't join us today. She's on an airplane somewhere winging her way back to Kansas City right now. But Josh, we appreciate it. And we'll be talking to you down the road. Let us know here at CB6 Success Group how we can help you reach your business dreams. Talk later.
Thank you.